The Court of Session in Edinburgh has said a legal action can go ahead to establish whether the UK can unilaterally stop the Brexit process if British voters decide the final deal is unacceptable. The petition, brought by a group of MPs, MEP and MSPs from 4 parties in Scotland, excluding the Conservatives, will now be served on the UK government, which has 21 days to respond. The 7 politicians want the European Court of Justice, ECJ, to rule on whether the UK can halt the Article 50 process without needing the approval of all other 27 EU member states. The first 4 signatories were Alan Smith, an SNP MEP, Ross Greer MSP and Andy Whitmer, 2 MSPs from the Scottish Greens, and David Martin, a Scottish Labour MEP. Martin has now been joined by the second of Labour's 2 Scottish MEP, Catherine Stiller, adding to the divisions within Labour over Jeremy Corbyn's policy that the Leave vote should be honoured. Corbyn's stance has been endorsed by Richard Leonard, the recently elected Scottish Labour leader. Christine Jardine, a Liberal Democrat MP for Edinburgh West, and Joanna Cherry, an SNP MP, QC and former prosecutor, are also signatories. The UK could sign up to all the EU's rules and regulations, staying in the single market, which provides free movement of goods, services and people, and the customs union, in which EU members agree tariffs on external states. Freedom of movement would continue and the UK would keep paying into the Brussels pot. We would continue to have unfettered access to EU trade, but the pledge to take back control of laws, borders and money would not have been fulfilled. This is an unlikely outcome and one that may be possible only by reversing the Brexit decision, after a second referendum or election. Britain could follow Norway, which is in the single market, is subject to freedom of movement rules and pays a fee to Brussels, but is outside the customs union. That combination would tie Britain to EU regulations but allow it to sign trade deals of its own. A Norway A- deal is more likely. That would see the UK leave the single market and customs union and end free movement of people. But Britain would align its rules and regulations with Brussels, hoping this would allow a greater degree of market access. The UK would still be subject to EU rules. A comprehensive trade deal like the one handed to Canada would help British traders, as it would lower or eliminate tariffs. But there would be little on offer for the UK services industry. It is a bad outcome for financial services. Such a deal would leave Britain free to diverge from EU rules and regulations, but that in turn would lead to border checks and the rise of other non-tariff barriers to trade. It would leave Britain free to forge new trade deals with other nations. Many in Brussels see this as a likely outcome, based on Theresa May's direction so far. Britain leaves with no trade deal, meaning that all trade is governed by World Trade Organization rules. Tariffs would be high, queues at the border long and the Irish border issue severe. In the short term, British aircraft might be unable to fly to some European destinations.